Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on a Twitter handle, and I'm joined today, it seems like for the first time in a wee while, by Ryan McGinlay at the Ryan McGinlay. How are you, sir?
Doing not too bad. Had a couple of days off work and I'm feeling refreshed. I'm feeling fine and ready to go. I think it's because it feels like a while because you weren't on the Friday and I was on with Alan Morrison. So were you on Thursday? I think it was you and I that were on Thursday.
I think I was, yes, indeed.
Yeah, so it would have been Thursday the last time me and you were on a podcast. You got a wee bit of something different, everybody that was watching the past couple of days, but it's back to the regular two today, which is a good thing and a bad thing depending on what way you look at it. But, you know, it's good to have a wee bit of change and it's back to the way things were, I guess.
Back to the gruesome twosome, whatever way you want to look at it. That is something like that, Ryan, yeah, or whatever. Yeah, indeed. Good morning, everybody. How are we? I was just saying to Ryan off here before we come on, it's 4 more sleeps till club football returns, or football as we know it. International breaks are okay, but you craved your club fix, don't you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's what you're used to throughout the whole year. As much as I'm enjoying how well Scotland are playing under Steve Clarke, good luck to them tonight against England. I hope they do it, especially at Hampden at home. But you know, it's all eyes on club football and domestic matters after about 10 o'clock tonight. So yeah. I'm looking forward to Celtic being back. Still feels as if they're riding the crest of a wave with the Rangers result. I know we've spoke about it to death over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, but you know, you're hoping that can be a launch pad for the rest of the season with regard to the home game starting against Dundee on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to that game. You know, it doesn't matter who you play against the opposition. Celtic dropped points last time they played at home. It's time for them to put it right and put in a good performance as well. So, yeah, all steams ahead for Saturday afternoon for sure.
Yep, Celtic do take on Dundee on Saturday at Celtic Park, turn of Scottish Premiership football, and it'll be interesting to see what team Brendan Rodgers puts out. But lots of Celtic supporters really looking forward to that. New players to welcome, to see if any of them make their debuts. But feel good factor coursing right through Celtic at the minute, as you say. Hopefully, the Ibrox result can be the platform and launchpad for Celtic to go on a run. Hadn't scored in their 2 games previous to the Rangers game, dropped points, as you say, against St Johnstone at home. And so, yeah, we await to see what team or see who's fit for Saturday. But most people can't wait. Seamus Gallagher summing up the mood there. Roll on Saturday, he says. Indeed, Seamus. Now, guys, if you want to throw in some questions, we will endeavour to answer them as well. But we thought we would kick off with the midfield, Ryan. Lots of competition for places in the midfield. I think we're assuming after Ibrox that Matt O'Reilly and McGregor are certain starters.
Yeah, they're locks.
In the Celtic midfield, yep. And so we asked the question in the morning briefing headline: Rio Hatate, Paulo Bernardo, or Odin Thiago Holm to star alongside McGregor and O'Reilly. Without giving too much away, young man, or maybe you want to give enough away with your starting selection. Who is it for you? Is it natural? Because I know you're a big and a huge Hatate fan. Are you hoping that he's recovered from his injury and he's just put straight in there?
If your best midfielder's fit, then your best midfielder gets straight into the starting lineup. And for me, I know how influential. I think McGregor's the most influential midfielder, and Matt O'Reilly's the in-form midfielder. But if you were to take everybody at their top form, their optimum best form, I think it's got to be Hatate. He's shown it in so many games, especially last season and for the half season before. You've got to remember he came into proceedings straight off the back of a full season in Japan. Came in, did the business, did get a bit tired towards the end of his first season, and then in the second season he came back fully refreshed. Before that World Cup break, I thought he was the best player in Scotland by some distance. I thought he was strolling things in the midfield. I'm just thinking Brendan Rodgers is the sort of manager that could get the best out of Rio Hatate and bring out a new level in his game. Ange Postecoglou did so well to nurture him into this player. I know he was a good player before he joined Celtic at Kawasaki Frontal, but I think there's still another couple of levels to go up. I mean, everything seems positive on the contract extension. I know he turned down one, but he did say he wanted to continue discussions with the club and hopefully get something resolved. If that means just putting a release clause in there, make it 25-30 million, so you're almost guaranteed that money if a big team comes calling, then I'm okay with that. I mean, I was speaking to a couple of mates of mine earlier, or yesterday rather, and we were saying we still think Hatate is going to leave in the next summer, but it's all about if Celtic can get the most money for him, and the only way they can do that is if they get him to a new contract, to get him, or to sell him for what he should go for, rather than what these Premier League teams probably think he should go for. Celtic should get the optimum price. But in terms of going back to the original question of who should be in the midfield, if Hatate's fit, then Hatate plays for me, but he's just coming back from an injury. Bernardo's a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment. We've seen clips, we've seen what he's like playing for Pacos de Ferreira and Benfica's B team. I know he's had a couple of fleeting appearances for the first team too, but we don't really know too much about him. With Holm, I think he's a player that's really, really exciting. He's the youngest out of the three, but I think his ceiling could potentially be the highest out of the three of them, to be honest.
Okay, there you go. You've heard it from Ryan. He wants Hatate to start if Hatate's fit. Steve McGrory comes in. Morning, Steve. How you doing? Regular contributor. I think Thiago Holm will start, and he reckons Rio, Hatate, and Paulo Bernardo will come off the bench after the hour mark if they're both fit. Hazel Finn agrees with you. Morning, Hazel. How you doing? Hatate for her. Need to get him back up to speed before the Champions League. And Michael Ross saying Hatate must play. So there you go, Ryan. Lots agreeing with you. Hatate. I'm kind of torn because I think Thiago Holm did really well at Ibrox, and just Brendan might give him kind of shout at Celtic Park against Dundee in a game. Although after St Johnstone, nothing's a gimme, as they say. You have to work hard for it, but I think it's the kind of game where Thiago Holm could flourish. Might not want to risk Hatate too much ahead of the Champions League, but give him some game time just to get him up to speed ahead of Feyenoord away. But hey, try and second guess the Celtic managers. We've been doing it ever since Ange came in. Can be a thankless, impossible task. Every now and again we hit the jackpot, we'll get 11 at 11 and we'll start 11s. But yeah, it's what it is exciting. You've got lots of options there, haven't you? That's the great thing. And obviously Turnbull's still in the mix. He started at Ibrox, but as you say, didn't cover himself in glory and kind of maybe sliding down that pecking order again. But the manager does like Turnbull, doesn't he? So, but I just feel Thiago Holm and Bernardo are the kind of players that Brendan will want to get his claws into, because he seems to have got his claws into Matt O'Reilly already, hasn't he? And Matt O'Reilly doing a lot of things that the manager's asked, and he's starting to flourish again after kind of wee dip. Brendan telling him to get his numbers up in terms of goals, and he's been doing that. And then another wonderful assist at Ibrox. Nobody can tell me that was a lucky header. That was an assist. He knew exactly what he was doing. So loved that about him. But yeah, and I think as well that you're hoping Hatate, like you, after a couple of days off, comes back refreshed and re-energised, and he takes his game to the levels that certainly a lot of Celtic supporters think he's capable of, and the manager clearly thinks he's capable of, even though he told them, right, you need to do a wee bit more to become a natural and regular starter in my team. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, Ryan. Telling everybody you're not an automatic pick because you have to do this, this, and this. And I keep going back to it. He'll watch them in training, so he'll know exactly when the time was right for Rio Hatate to come back into the fray. There's a tendency and an urgency within fans just to throw them straight in there. But unless he's 100% fit, I don't think Celtic will take any unnecessary risk with a player like Hatate, because the club need him for Champions League duty big time.
Yeah, I think he's one of these players that's press resistant, that can just work his way out of a press quite easily. And you need players like that in the Champions League. If there was a game that I would want Hatate to be starting in, if I could choose between Dundee United at home or Feyenoord away at the Coupe, I'd be choosing the Coop all day long because you need a player. You need a player that's going to be industrious on the ball. I actually noticed something which was quite interesting. It was in the comments the other day about the Champions League group. It's only Atletico Madrid that don't have a Japanese player in their ranks. I know Celtic have got quite a few. I think that does show you. And you look at the result that Japan got the other night. I know that Germany are all over the place with regard to their team. They've just sacked their manager as well. But Japanese football, and Celtic are quite smart in doing this, but Japanese football is certainly on the rise. The talent is there, and now they're getting nurtured and they're making their way to Europe. And that will only improve Japan as a team. If they've got a lot of their players playing their trade in Europe, then it'll make them better. I don't want this to become like the Japanese international podcast, but I've just noticed that they are doing really, really well with their players going further afield to try new things and try new cultures. And you do see that with some Scottish players as well, but you want to see that even more so. You know, Japanese players are really pushing themselves out to make themselves better versions of themselves in different leagues of the world. You know, Mitoma's really flying the flag for them in England in the Premier League. Hatate, Kyogo, Maeda, they're all doing the same in Scotland. You get players in Germany. I know there's a boy that just signed for Liverpool, and Endo, who was playing in Germany before that. So Japanese football really is on the rise, and it's good to see. But in terms of if I would want Hatate playing in Europe, you know, I thought he was Celtic's best player in Europe last season. That first half against Real Madrid, especially at home. That pass that he just plucks out the air is just ridiculous. I must have watched that clip at least 100 times since it's happened. You can hear the gasp from the crowd, because then you know it's good. You know it's good when the crowd make that noise. I've got to be honest, I've made that noise a couple of times when watching Hatate on the pitch. I'm a self-confessed fan of him. I just
you don't say.
No, I think he's an absolute joy to watch. Put him when he's at his best. I don't think there's anyone that comes close to him. He just he dominates games single-handedly. So if you're wanting to give Odin Thiago Holm a start him against Dundee on Saturday, and then maybe give Hatate or Bernardo minutes off the bench. But you know, this competition breeds success, and it breeds positivity as well, because there only seems to be one position that's up for grabs at the moment, and it's that sort of number 8 position, because the number 6 is taken by McGregor and the number 10 is taken by Matt O'Reilly. There's one position up for grabs and there's 3 or 4 players fighting for it. So let's see who the best suitor is for that position.
Lots of commenters saying as well, Ryan, and I mentioned him, are you writing off Iwata completely? Tomoki Iwata, he's not really featured under Brendan Rodgers, has he, at all? And just don't know what the story is there. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers would need to be asked about that, but just seems a strange one, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I'm not writing him off, but I'm more thinking about what I'm trying to see it through the manager's eyes. And Brendan Rodgers hasn't played him for a single minute, both in pre-season and in terms of the regular season. In the midfield role, he's only played as a right back, and that was in pre-season. Tony Ralston came back. Yeah, it's a weird one with Iwata. I know they made the deal permanent, but at the same time, there wasn't that much fanfare around it as well. It was more like, oh yeah, we did sign him on a permanent deal. It was kind of like a throwaway. It sounds bad to say that, but it was put out there as if, oh, we thought this was public news. We're just going to make a tweet about it and make sure that everybody knows and everybody's on the same page. You know, it was Japanese Player of the Year. I thought he played well whenever he did play, both in centre back. Apart from maybe one game against St Mirren that I mentioned, that him and Ralston get mixed up. But any game that him and Johnston played together, they looked really, really solid at the back. Which you know, I thought he'd be one of these players that Brendan Rodgers would like, because he's quite versatile, and I don't think he ever lets you down wherever he steps foot in the team. But you know, managers have their favourites. They see guys and they see what their limitations and strengths are. Sometimes the two just don't fit, and he might prefer another player to Iwata. If that's the case, then I wouldn't want Celtic holding on to him for too long. I don't want him sitting about on the bench, or not even getting on the bench. You know, he's 26 years old. He wants to be playing football. If he still has aspirations for making it in the Japan team and being a regular, then he has to be going and playing regular football. And I wouldn't want Celtic to be standing in the way of that. There's no point in him staying if he's not going to play games. Sure. You know, and we've got and Celtic have got Kwon, who basically does the same thing, but he's younger. So if Brendan Rodgers prefers Kwon over Iwata, then Iwata will go, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I hope he can make it in the team. But at the moment, he does seem a bit frozen out.
Again, going back to the fact that the manager clearly thinks there's better players in front of him in that queue. There's no slight on Iwata's ability, just maybe the manager believes that the players that you've listed and named are above him. Now, here's one for you, Ryan, which I quite like from JP. Using the logic of the Japanese national team on the rise, then should Celtic not be signing more Scottish players since our national team is also on the rise? What's your
It's
thoughts
very
on that?
true. But Scottish players are too expensive at this moment in time. Or the teams that are look at the best players in Scotland. I think, just in my opinion, might be biased. I already do think that Scotland have Celtic have the best Scottish midfielder in Callum McGregor. I think when everybody's playing to their form, I spoke about it in my article at the weekend. Callum McGregor is the metronome that makes Cell tick at the end of the day. I know that's a terrible, terrible pun, but I think it's very true.
I'll let it slide.
I think it's very true though, because I think he makes everybody better around him in the Scotland team, and he helps McTominay go further forward. McTominay has 6 goals in 5 games in qualifying. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's because McGregor doesn't want to go forward, and he's helpful in staying back and helping the team. McGinn likes to go forward too. Billy Gilmore likes to orchestrate things. So Cam McGregor's always there. But you notice that Steve Clarke never doesn't pick McGregor. McGregor's never on the bench. There's a reason why McGregor always plays for Scotland. It's because he's not afraid to do the dirty work. I think he's another captain on that pitch. I know Andy Robertson's the Scotland captain, but Cal McGregor's a captain in that Scotland team, if you get me. And you can't have too many of them in and around the team. In terms of Scottish players, I think that Celtic can get better value elsewhere, unfortunately. They can probably get better versions of players in different countries rather than what happens in Scotland. It's not a slight on Scotland. I just think there's better players to be found in Japan that Celtic can get more value for money. You know, there's not any strikers kicking about that are the same as Kyogo in Scotland. Kyogo is the best striker in Scotland, and he was brought from Japan. I can't remember the last time Scotland had a decent, homegrown striker. I know that point's been made a couple of times, but I can't honestly remember. Don't know, maybe even Lee Griffith.
First time round, Charlie Nick, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and Lee Griffiths was up and down, really good numbers for Celtic. Well, we know how it ended, but at the same time, he did have good numbers in a lot of his seasons. But I think that's definitely a position that Scotland have struggled in over the past 10, 20 years. Both Shea Adams and Lyndon Dykes have been very, very effective, but they weren't born Scottish. They've had to play for Scotland through a different route, through ancestry or through distant relatives or immediate relatives, but like grandparents. And there's nothing against that. If if Scotland can use that to their advantage, then so be it. But there seems to be a lack of strikers. It's good that some midfielders are going away and defenders too. In Italy, such as Ferguson. Hickey went to Italy, and now he's in England. Doig, he's a left back, left midfielder. He went to Italy. I like that players are broadening their horizons. That can only mean good things for the Scotland squad going forward. But I do think that Celtic can still get better value for money elsewhere by shopping in different markets. Yes, I think they've got to keep that homegrown for the quota, but there's ways in which they can do that while promoting their own.
It is an interesting one. It's a cracking point that GP raises there, to be fair, because the Scottish national team are doing well. We've got a lot of players plying their trade at a very high level in that Scotland team now, Ryan. But again, don't want to talk about or make it a Scotland podcast when it's a Celtic podcast, but it's Celtic related in a way, isn't it? It's interwoven.
Absolutely, yeah. Celtic do have a representative in there, and Callum McGregor. There probably should be more, but Greg Taylor didn't get called up for this. Probably down to form as well, which is fair enough because he's not had the greatest start. That and the fact that probably left back is one of Scotland's best positions when it comes to players. Steve Clarke has did so well to accommodate 2 tremendous left backs in Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney. They both play in the same team. It's a really weird system, but it seems to work. You put your best players in and around that team regardless. One of them plays as a left centre back, and one of them plays as a left back, left wing back. It's weird, but it works. But yeah, it's international break, but it's important to still talk about what goes on in the international breaks. But then, Celtic are only a couple of days away, so that'll be our focus for the rest of this podcast, I reckon.
Now, a couple of guys agreeing with your old dad here. Who'd have thunk it, Ryan? Kaiser, King Kenny was the last great Scottish striker. Everybody knows my thoughts on that. But Alan Wood saying he must admit Charlie Nick was amazing when he broke into the first Celtic first team. I was talking about early Charlie Nick first time round. He was a phenomenon, absolutely sensational. And Charlie was amazing when he broke into the Celtic team, says Michael Ross. Yes. Now, it's just slightly before your time, Ryan, but trust me, Charlie Nicholas was absolutely lethal. Champagne Charlie, all that kind of moniker. He was a terrific player. And I wrote about this in my book, first book, but Celtic won the Daily Express, I think it was 5 or 6-a-side tournament at Wembley Arena. And Charlie played against Ipswich, that great Ipswich team. And he also played against Southampton when Kevin Keegan and Mick Mills were playing for Southampton. And it was shown live on Sports Night. I'm sure Harry Carpenter presented it. That shows you how long ago it was. But Charlie was an absolute star of that. And it kind of propelled him into, like a British audience. Celtic took a 7-8 man team down there. I'm sure Davy Moyes was part of that team as well. But Charlie was, honestly, he scored the win in the final. They won 1-0. And lots of people got to see an early glimpse of Charlie. 81, I'm sure it was 81. I'm sure someone, Steve McGrory, will remember that too. Aye, Thomas Burns, the cannonball kid and all that. And he really was an excellent striker. And just coming on the back of Kenny Dalglish, kind of talking about hero worship and stuff. But I think early Charlie was certainly something special.
Everybody says that, yeah.
And he really had the world at his feet. But, players choose to go wherever they want, and Charlie chose to go to Arsenal. Everybody said he's gone to Liverpool. He also had Manchester. I mean, to have Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United chasing your signature in 1983 is something special. And he chose Arsenal. We all know what happened. So, but yeah, he was a. Don't think anybody would doubt that he was a fantastic player for Celtic and a fantastic striker. And I maintain that in the Mexico World Cup, Charlie was having a stormer till he get crunched by a Danish defender whose name escapes me, and it was a real blow for Scotland because he was having a right good game, and Scotland could have, would have, should have maybe got to the last or the second stage of the World Cup because they needed a striker, and they drew 0-0 with Uruguay in the last game, didn't get through. But hey, all this buts and maybes. But yeah, Charlie Nick. People agreeing with your old dad there, Ryan. So I'm happy about that. Now and again, I kind of pluck one out there and think I know something about the beautiful game. There you go.
I'm trying to find that Danish midfielder's name. Just give me a wee minute. Yeah, just give me a wee minute. I will find it if you can just keep it going. I will find the guy's name.
Somebody will know. But yeah, Charlie scored. Larsson scored 53 goals, I think, one of the seasons for Celtic, didn't he? I think Charlie got the 52 or 53 round about that.
Somebody was saying that in the comments,
He was absolutely brilliant, and scored 2 penalties at Ibrox in a 4-2 game in his last appearance the first time round. That's a wonderful, wonderful game because Arthur Montford's commentating on that. It's just a delight. Go on YouTube that. Francis Preben Elkjær scored, he did indeed. I was talking about Preben Elkjær the other day to a man you mentioned, Josh Doig, who's living his best life with Verona in Italy, and I mentioned Preben Elkjær, and he was saying, he's all over Verona Stadium because Preben Elkjær was the striker that led them to their one and only Scudetto in the 80s, sandwiched in between Maradona's Napoli winning it. There you go. Knowledge and all that, Ryan. So he was talking about him, and he was living his best life. Josh Doig, he was saying, you're talking about guys broadening horizons.
Good on him as well.
He was absolutely loving it, and he came across as a really decent and sound guy, and I was delighted that he was broadening his horizons. He was saying nobody can take it away from him that he's played in Serie A for that season, and he just hopes to keep it going, saying he loves it. So, but there you go. But yes, as you say, club football will return. We wish Scotland well tonight against England, but club football returns on Saturday. Celtic playing Dundee, and you do miss it, don't you? It's yes, Steve McGrory coming in. Yes, I remember that Charlie Tony. He lived and worked in London 1991 and was proud as punch coming into work the following day. There you go. I knew Steve would remember. Yeah, I mean, I was a young boy. I was only about 8 or 9, but it was a big thing to see Celtic on Sports Night. So yeah, I remember that. But there you go. Also, Stephen Murray coming in saying, mate, 3-0 2 down. Yep. Celtic fans did the walk on at half time. They won 4-2 and Dundee United pipped Celtic on the last day. That day, Ryan, Celtic played Rangers at Ibrox. Dundee United played Dundee at Dens. And Aberdeen were playing as well. And all three of them could have won the title. And Dundee United won it, their one and only title in 1983. But what a last day they say. It wouldn't be allowed now. Wouldn't be allowed today.
No.
A derby match on the last day of the season, derby match in Dundee as well, and Aberdeen going for the title. They would all be, staggered. It was unbelievable day of football that, and Celtic 2-0 down. Martin David can remember that. Tony Chalanik was brilliant in that to him. Yeah, he certainly was. See, there you go, from the darkest recesses of my mind, Ryan. People talking about it and remembering it. Yeah, excellent. Can't beat that. I love all that kind of stuff. It's always good in International Week as well, because you kind of have other stuff to talk about, don't we? And we like all that.
We certainly do. We always have something to talk about, even when there's nothing going on. There's always something. I think that's the joy of supporting Celtic and supporting a big team and writing about a big team because of that. There's always something to talk about. There's always something going on, whether it be an opinion that you have, whether it be news that comes out. There's always something to talk about and get your teeth stuck into. And then you know that in a couple of days' time that Celtic will be back. I think it'll feel real that Celtic will be back when you hear the press conferences and you hear them talking about the Dundee game. You know, it's going to be like buses because 2 games are going to come along at once with regard to the Feyenoord game as well. That's on so Saturday into Tuesday. The two are going to each other really, really quickly, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the Champions League, Ryan, I have to say, but you work on the one game at a time premise, but it's hard not to look ahead or cast your mind ahead to the Feyenoord game, and I'm actually quite happy that they're away in the first game because I want to just rip at it from day one, from match day one, and see what happens and what an arena that is to go and play your football with.
Yeah, absolutely. Rotterdam. I've never been to Rotterdam. I'd quite like to go one day, but it's Dutch football. I do like the sort of the relationship, especially the relationship that Celtic and Feyenoord seem to have. The two fan bases seem to get on really, really well. So whoever's making that trip over there to Rotterdam, I'm sure they'll have a great time, regardless if they have a ticket for the game or not. I'm sure the Feyenoord fans will make everybody feel very welcome in and around Rotterdam. So that should be an exciting one. Hopefully Celtic do the business over there. How good would it be to get at least a draw, but a win over and away going into the Lazio game in the second. A Lazio team that are by all accounts up and down with regard to their form. So are Celtic, though, to be fair. I've got to remember and I've got to remind myself that Celtic have been up and down with their form too. But that doesn't matter. I'm looking at the other teams. Celtic will take care of themselves in the Champions League. It's all about the other teams and how they come about. But yeah, if they could get a draw or a win in the first game of the Champions League group stages, the final Champions League group stages, then that'd be quite exciting for the rest of the. It would set the ties up really well for the rest of the group stage. So a draw or a win, please.
Pete McGee never forgiven.
A week today.
Yep, he's never forgiven Feyenoord from 1970, and he never will. The lesser spoken about European Cup final, which we've touched upon on this show before. Now here's a question for us, Ryan, and it's thrown up by Hazel Finn. Tony and Ryan, would you play Yang in place of Abada on Saturday?
We've got to, because Abada's injured. He's out for a month, injured, apparently. No, that's what everybody was talking about. There's a muscle injury that seems to be keeping him out for about a month or so. Delighted they signed that new deal, by the way. I don't know if we really spoke about it, or It seems like so long ago we probably did speak about it to death, but yeah, I'm delighted to see that he's got a new deal. Good that another asset is getting signed up for the long haul. He has looked like he's improved in a number of things since Brendan Rodgers came to the club. He's a player that Celtic and Brendan Rodgers can work with and get the best out of him. He's only 21, 22 years old. Still a very young boy. He's only going to get better. But he's got to remember, I think, at the same time, a wee bit of trepidation because he's one of the senior members of the team now, I would say. This is his third season at Celtic. He's really got to start grabbing games and dominating games of his own accord, I would say. But he's got all the ability in the world to do that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops even more at Celtic. It's a shame that he's injured for a month, but it gives an opportunity for players like Yang and Palma to really stake their claim. I know that it won't be long till Tilio's available as well.
Yeah.
The forgotten man. Need to remind everybody, including myself, that Tilio still exists. We haven't seen anything of him, but by all accounts, when I was speaking to Sasha, who was the Australian journalist I was talking to when he was signing for Celtic, everyone's really, really excited about this player. They're saying he's the future of Australian football. He's exciting. He's young. He's ready to come in and instantly make an impact for Celtic. So, I think Saturday will be coming too early for him. But midway through September, you're wanting to see a wee glimpse of Tilio and see what he can do. But in terms of Saturday, I think you've got to throw in Yang. Yang's shown enough to get another start. I thought he was one of Celtic's better players against St Johnstone. Not everything came off for him, but at least he was trying. And with a bad injured, I think he'll just slot in quite nicely at right wing. I'd play him at right wing, and I'd play Palma at left wing. Let's see what Palma's all about. I don't think you need to play Maeda at home.
I want to see both of them. Yeah. So Marquis saying definitely play Yang. Timonon saying Palma not play instead.
Palma on the left and Yang on the right.
Isabel saying play Holm in place of Turnbull. He's talking about midfield again. And Robert Smith, Chalanik, same age as Tony, my first Celtic hero, the best and most sought after striker in Europe 1983. Most certainly was. And AGSC Tech, going back to the final game, saying the final away game is the key to group. Even as game one, if Celtic don't get anything in Rotterdam, then they're struggling. I wouldn't go that far, but I think it would be a real bonus ball if Celtic can get a win there, Ryan, or as you say, at least a draw. Then you would be setting yourself up to be fiercely competitive in the group. So yeah, I'm all for that. Michael Ross saying a draw at final would set Celtic up nicely. A draw or win, please, Celtic. That's what I'm asking for.
It's an interesting one because do we want does Celtic fans and Celtic journalists, do we want Atletico Madrid to be running away with the group and see the other three fight it out for second? Because I don't know if you want maybe you want Atletico Madrid to win their first two games so they not take it easy against Celtic, but maybe off the gas just slightly for the home and away games. You want Celtic to be getting something, at least 2 points, I would say, against Atletico Madrid. 2 draws would be great against Atletico if you can get wins in the other games in the group. But I think if Celtic have got ambitions for second or third, then you maybe want one team to run away with it and get points off of everyone. If it's going to be one team, you'd maybe want it to be Atletico and then see what you can do against them in that back-to-back. But, it could be a bit awkward if Lazio win games and then Atletico win games. Everybody will take points off each other. I think you need a team that's going to come out and win games straight away, so that you've got, it's like a best of the rest situation rather than everybody fighting against each other. Because then I think the results could go anyway, and that would be quite mental. But yeah, I think if Atletico flex their muscles and show how good a team they are, then they will finish first in the group. It's all about who will join them in second and third.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, Steve McGrory comes in with a fair point, saying Palmer's playing at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning in Honduras. Hopefully he'll be fit enough for Saturday's bench. Andrew Gillia saying that Celtic supporters are going to love Tilio. Helen Feeks, morning Helen, how you doing? She likes Yang. She thinks he's a baller. And Andrew come back in saying Tilio's a better dribbler than Yang. We shall wait and see. B comes in and says, I win it at the Keep Stadium for me. And AGSC to come back and say pressures on the home games becomes enormous if Celtic don't get anything in Rotterdam. And Gordon Coney's asking us, Ryan, Where would you rather finish in the group? Second or third? Europa, last 16? I want last 16. Don't care. I want the prestige of going to the last 16. I want the money that comes with going to the last 16. I want Celtic to compete against the best and play against the best and take their chances against the best that the European elite competition has to offer. I'll take third if that's what's given. But if you're asking, I want to top the group. I've got to be honest. Tall order, yeah, but I want to top the group.
You want a Club Brugge, don't you? You want to be the Club
I want
Brugge
Celtic to be the fiercely competitive. I want to win that group or finish second, go into the last 16, take a chance. I want to be back at that top table and flying the flag in an appropriate manner for Scotland. And I want people to talk about Celtic in Europe for all the right reasons and not bringing up all sorts of records, about 20 years not winning a knockout tie. I really do. I just want to see people can call me a dreamer, an optimist, all of the above. Fine, I am. But
what's the point in doing it then if you don't?
what's the point in
Otherwise,
qualifying? Exactly. Yeah. So and if they have to drop down into the Europa League, then so be it. But I want Celtic to finish first or second in that group. It stands to reason.
For me, it's a must not finish fourth. I know I'm usually the eternal optimist, but I'm very much a let's not get eliminated. I know you can get eliminated from the Champions League and still qualify for the Europa League. Europa League, which is looking absolutely stacked, may I add, by the way. Some of the teams in there, Ajax and Liverpool. I know I was going to mention Brighton as one of those European teams. Brighton probably will be a European team for the next few years, the way they're going. But it's a very, very strong lineup in the Europa League as well. Just shows you the changing landscape of European football as a whole. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. There's some good examples and negative examples, but very, very interesting to see what's happening in Europe with regard to football. Let's go for second, first or second, and then see where that goes. If Celtic become eliminated from contention for that spot, for one of those Champions League spots, then they should go for third. But I think fourth place, would be quite dismal, to be honest. You bring back an elite manager. Brendan Rodgers is an elite manager, especially compared to all the managers in that group. I know Sarri's an elite manager, Simeone is too. Slot was very highly rated last season. He didn't make the move for whatever reason to Tottenham, which then had that sort of a domino effect, like led Ange Postecoglou to Spurs. These things happen, but Brendan Rodgers, elite manager, he'll want to show it against the best, because that's what he was doing with Leicester. He was coming up against the best every second week. Klopp, Guardiola, Conte, Ten Hag, etc., all these managers in and around the Premier League. It's up to him to show that he can do that with Celtic, his boyhood team, the team that he says that he loves and adores. If he can do that in Europe and show his stuff, especially being a bit more maybe tactically astute than Ange or Postecoglou was in Europe, then I think we could be onto something. But yeah, as long as they don't finish fourth, I'll be relatively pleased. But second place, I think, would take all the pressure off them in that European sort of ambition. It doesn't really matter what happens in the last 16. If you got to the last 16, it would show that Celtic are improving in Europe. Whereas if they do drop into the Europa League, there'd be an expectation, depending on the draw, of Celtic winning that knockout tie. And then if you lose that, then there could be a negative feeling going on about Europe all over again. If you finish second, that takes that away from you. But if you finish third, it still has that room to maybe be disappointed with a European run. So yeah, second or third would do me. If you can get first, ideal, but don't finish fourth.
Francis Leicester, absolutely, Tony. That's what Celtic should be aiming for. Kaiser Wells said, I've just said we want to finish first or second in that group if we can. Alan Wood, yep, let's get Dundee out of the way first with some goals. Yep, I did say that. Francis BC Green, aspire. I'm always aspiring. And always, let's just focus on Saturday. This happened last year. Expectations were set too high. Michael Duffin second, but would take third. Hazel Finn, totally with you, Tony. Let's go for it. Exactly, let's go for it. Stephen Donovan, if only the board would match your optimism, Tony, with transfer policy. Michael Ross, Celtic should be a team to reckon with in the Europa League. So he's like you, Ryan, saying anything bar fourth. And Jamie,
I think Celtic are a Europa League team. I think that's just the way that Scotland is as a nation. I think Rangers found that out last season as well, that they're a Europa League side. The results in the Champions League would definitely point to that. Celtic too, as much as the performances were admirable, they could have got a couple of wins with those performances in the Europa League.
Yeah.
I would have said, or they'd be first or second in the Europa League group if they had that equivalent. Sometimes it's good to fight against the best teams and put your wits against the top teams in Europe. But I think Celtic are the Europa League team in terms of the quality. They can show their strengths in that competition. But if they can get the best of both worlds, get the finances of the Champions League for the group stage, and then maybe drop it into the Europa League after Christmas, then I've not really got a problem with that. But go for the qualification from the group first.
Yeah. Jamie Bonner doesn't think Celtic have got anything to fear in the Champions League group. And I've started more comments here. Ryan, Jason Lee saying Europa League now isn't that much easier than the Champions League. You were alluding to that. Gordon Coney, his head says second, his heart says Dublin. Dublin is the venue for the final of the Europa League. 1969 Reaper Man saying you can dream, of course, but it's La La Land if you think we can finish second or first. Well, not only am I living in La La Land, I must be gaga as well, because I never rule anything out when it comes to Celtic, especially in the Champions League. Pete McGee doesn't see any point getting excited about being in the Champions League if the thought is hope we finish third and drop into Europa League. I'm with you on that, Pete. But if that's what it's to be, and we find that out in the course of doing it, then I would still take the Europa League.
That's the thing. I don't think
third is realistic. Yeah.
I don't think that the Celtic players and the Celtic managers go in saying we want to finish third. I think they go into the group stage thinking they want to do as well as they can. But third place isn't a disaster if you do get it. It is a good opportunity to progress further. I know Celtic haven't won a knockout tie since 2004. I keep on mentioning that. Sorry to everybody that I mentioned that too. But I do want to see Celtic win a knockout tie as well. It'd be great if that was in the Champions League. But if it's to be the Europa League to break that duck, then so be it. But I want Celtic to do as well as they can in Europe. You see the other end, the other part of the city get to 2 European finals since 2008. I'd like a bit of a slice of that, to be honest.
Gordon Flowers, to be the best, you have to play with the best. Exactly, got to be in it. And I want to mix it with the best. So, yep, I'm all for that, Gordon. Definitely. And Alan was saying, what's the deal about the Dublin final? They all support EPL teams in that city anyway. So there we go. That's fair enough. But yeah, I want Celtic to be, as I've said, as fiercely competitive as possible in their Champions League group, and the chips will fall where they may. But first things first, Celtic do have a game against Dundee on Saturday, Ryan. Can't wait for that to come around.
I'm excited for it. Yeah.
No, I can't wait. I'm always excited for Celtic games, but you just after Ibrox and that major boost and shot in the arm that it gave to your season and just your kind of general mood, and you're just now excited to see what new players will come in, if any, to the starting 11, or what team the manager will put out, and just how they go about their business against Dundee, in the hope that Kyogo can go on a run of goal scoring for him. And speaking of Kyogo, on the website today, I've written about Kyogo. I'll just get the link to that in the comment section if you want to go on and have a wee read at that. I'm talking about King Kenny, the King of Kings, and I'm asking, is Kyogo the next Celtic striker to be crowned King? Kyogo's got a nice ring to it, Ryan, hasn't it?
Yeah, I do think so. I think Emperor Kyogo as well, Emperor Furuhashi. I think he's so special. I was just thinking there in my head, since the Celtic Way started a little over 2 years ago, Kyogo must be the most written about or the most wrote about player since the website's inception. He's got to be, because he steals the headlines most weeks with his goal scoring exploits. He was probably get spoke about a lot when he had that 3-month injury in his first season, because he was the spark. He was the initial spark in the Ange Postecoglou era. He was out for that 3 months. Yes, Giakoumakis did a great job in holding the fort, but he wasn't Kyogo. And no matter how much people like Giakoumakis is no Kyogo. There's a reason why he left and Kyogo stayed. Kyogo's just another level. And last season was just special, and it's great to see that he's got that new deal. He's essentially pledging his prime years unless a stupid bid comes in for him, a silly bid comes in and pries him away from us. But yeah, he's staying for the prime of his career. I think he'll break that 100 goal mark by the end of this season or the start of next season if he keeps things going. He's just a special player and a joy to have in the team. It wasn't all positive for him at the start of the season. Yes, I know he scored in a couple of games, but maybe that position wasn't doing him so well. Interesting to see how he operates on Saturday if he comes in deep, or he's just being that target man that we all know and love. I hope it's the latter, to be honest, even though he is a good player. I think he's better when he's up there taking and finishing chances, play to your strengths. Kyogo's strengths, putting the ball in the back of the net. He's the best at it in Scotland. So, yeah, play to your strengths, keep Kyogo up front, and he'll get to that 100 goal mark by, I'd say at most, the end of next season.
Yeah, so you want to have a look at that. I've written a wee piece based on Kenny Dalglish's comments that he's the transfer bargain of the millennium, kind of based it around that and basically what you're seeing with Kyogo in the 2 years that he's been here and the kind of level and the goals that he's scored. So enjoy that. Have a read at that, guys. You'll enjoy that.
I want to see this as well. Marquis, thanks for commenting. Marquis says he wants to see Kyogo partnering O up front. Now, I did see a couple of things in pre-season, and I do agree with Mark in this point that they did click. I think it was O's passing ability that really surprised me of how good he was, especially with long-range passes. Like, he could play as a number 10. It's amazing. He's signed as a striker, but he could probably play as a number 10 as well. I do want to see more of O, because I feel like people forgot how good he was at the end of last season, especially against Aberdeen. And I know he had a couple of up and down games. He had that bad miss against Rangers. I think the opinions of fans is very, very based on how players do against Rangers. That is the showpiece game. It's the game that Celtic players can become Celtic heroes very, very easily. The fact that O missed that chance at hit the post, he was very unlucky with the chance, to be fair. Tries to put it over the goalkeeper and it hits the post. 9 times out of 10 that does go in the back of the net. But he did end the season really well with those 2 goals against Aberdeen. I thought it was a really good cameo appearance. And he was strutting about the pitch as if this is going to be my season. Next season I'm going to come in and do the business. That injury, which as much as he did pick it up, a lot of it would have been self-inflicted with the fact that he tried to run on with a clear injury. He aggravated it even worse, or even more so when he knew that he was hurt beforehand. So, that was silly from him. We've seen that happen before with players like Mikey Johnson. It never pays off. But I'm looking forward to seeing O coming back into the team and showing how good a player he is. Because it seems that Jurgen Klinsmann was a good striker back in his heyday as well. He knows a striker when he sees one, and he really does rate O and his chances for the future in the international setup. So I do want to see more of him going forward.
That would be interesting to see the 2 of them up front in a pairing. We'll see over to the manager on
Kyogo could play the number 10. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's only a problem. It's only a problem when Kyogo's playmaking, when Kyogo isn't up front. But when he's not up there occupying that area.
I prefer Kyogo on the shoulder of the last defender, as he proved at Ibrox. Excellent chance, buried it 20 yards. It's what he does, So
it's an interesting point from Jamie as well. Yeah, he is a converted winger as well. You look at the majority of games that he's played in his career. Before he went to Celtic, a large majority of his games were played in the left wing. That's where he was, left wing and right wing. So it has changed. It was Ange Postecoglou, I think, that effectively changed him into an out-and-out striker. And what a stroke of genius that was, because, I think he's the best since Larsson. I know people have their own opinions, but I think he's the best since Larsson.
All subjective, but I think a lot of Chelsea supporters would agree with you on that front, Ryan. Vast majority of them, because they see similarities in the two players, the quickness of movement, the quickness of feet, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there are comparisons coming thick and fast, and his goal tally is certainly up there. And if he stays for the duration of the contract, then goodness knows how many goals he will score for Celtic. Pick a number, any number. But what I do know is I think Kenny Dalglish got 173 and Larsson got 242. Kyogo's on 57 and counting. So we will see what the final divvy up is at the end of Kyogo's Celtic career, but he knows where the back of the net is. Guys, that's been 50 minutes on a relatively quiet international week, when sometimes you never run out of things to talk about with regards to Celtic, but it sometimes slows down. The pace takes a kind of, I would say, pre-season feel about it, but everybody kind of enjoys a wee break. But certainly we don't, because we keep going, Ryan, and we try and entertain everybody every day at 10 o'clock-ish for the benefit of Pete McGee. There you go. But yeah, it's we come on here, we speak about all things Celtic. It takes us down various rabbit holes and we go tangents. We spoke about the 1981 Daily Express five-a-side competition at Wembley Arena that Celtic won with legendary Charlenick in great form. Spoken about all sorts of things. Spoken about Kyogo. We've spoken about Feyenoord. We've spoken about who's going to take the place in the midfield that's up for grabs, because we reckon McGregor and O'Reilly are certain starters. Spoken about Dundee. And we're only Tuesday, Ryan. We're only Tuesday. We have to say good luck to Callum McGregor and the rest of the Scotland squad tonight. Just hoping they can do the business against England at Hampden. Centenary match. 125th anniversary match, isn't it? Is that right?
150.
50, right, go. Sorry about that. 150th anniversary match. So yeah, I think lots of people will be tuning into that. Hope Callum McGregor comes out of that unscathed, because he'll play the 90 minutes, won't he?
Oh,
Steve Clark loves him.
There's a reason why Brendan Rodgers, and there's a reason why Ange Postecoglou, there's a reason why Brendan Rodgers, Steve Clark, etc. There's a reason why they play this player for 90 minutes. He's Mr. Dependable. He's Mr. Consistent. I know we had a bad start to the season, but that Rangers game seems to have gotten back to where we know he can be and where he usually is, which is at the top of the midfield tree in terms of Scotland anyway.
Yeah, indeed. Great show, lads. Lee, thank you very much. Good show, boys. Says Helen Fix. Thank you, Helen. We appreciate it. As I say, we can go off on tangents, and we like to do that sometimes. Lots of people got lots of different memories about Celtic, various players and various things, and we try and cover all sorts of bases. But it's just wonderful chatting about Celtic. That's the beauty of it, and we love the Celtic Way community that we've built up here. We love the fact that you guys feel comfortable coming in the comment section, throwing your own opinions in, and we try our best to read as many of them out as we can, because it's not about the two guys you see on your screen, it's about you guys too, and we like to involve you. Gordon Coney comes in, says, another great Celtic discussion, lads. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate that. As I say, we do enjoy it. It's not lip service that we pay. We genuinely enjoy the fact that you guys come in and do your thing and inform us as well. Give us food for thought with your questions too. We like to answer them. And if you enjoy what we do, then we urge you every day to subscribe to the Celtic Way website, and you can help us support top quality football journalism covering the club you love in the process. And that's by the touch of a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Push that button, guys. Help us. We endeavour to do the YouTube videos for free, but your subscription helps us to do that, doesn't it, Ryan? There's all sorts of stuff on the website, from big interviews, opinions from myself, Kevin McKenna, stats bomb stuff from Ryan, also other stats stuff from Alan Morrison, Duco James, and scouting pieces from Stuart Ross. We've kind of got most bases covered, or every base covered, or we certainly try to. And there's new feature series as well, my Celtic 5 moments, top Celtic 5 moments, which is on the YouTube channel, various Celtic players, managers, talking heads, high-profile Celtic supporters, and other podcasters coming on and doing their thing on that. So there'll be another one at the weekend. I think Ryan's working on something to that. So another one for you.
Excited about that one. It should be quite good.
Yep. So you can enjoy that. But yeah, for whatever reason you come on, please help us and subscribe. We appreciate it. That's push the button. I think it's £4 for 4 months. Access www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thanks, guys. We'll be back tomorrow.
Just
talk about
quickly.
something. Go on, Ryan, on you go.
Just 2 more things to advertise before we finish off.
Yeah.
So first of all, if you could please, if you are interested and want to support us even further, then please press the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. By subscribing, it helps us grow bigger as a channel. It makes the comment section bigger because more people are tuning in daily. And it helps us keep doing what we do, because at the end of the day, these videos are for free and they help us. And by subscribing to both the website and the YouTube channel, you're allowing us to continue doing what we love doing, which is writing and talking about Celtic. So if you do want to continue to support us, please do by subscribing to both the website and the YouTube channel. It's free. Subscribing to the YouTube channel is free. If you press the button, you'll get notifications using the bell. It will tell you when we are live and when premieres are happening for pre-recorded videos too. So if you are interested, then please give us a subscribe on the YouTube channel. And also, we do have a Celtic Way app now on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. If you just type in the Celtic Way, you can get logged in using your Celtic Way account. And yeah, it's a lot easier to read articles when you're using your phone or your mobile device on the Celtic Way app than it would be using Safari or Chrome, etc. So it's optimized for these mobile phones and mobile devices. So if you are interested, please look at the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for the Celtic Way app. But yeah, I think that's all my advertising done, Tony.
Well done, that man. I think we got it all out there, didn't we? Just short of the hour mark. And on days when it's the international break, I think that's quite commendable. You know, we always try and speak about Celtic as positively and honestly and openly and humorously as possible. We hope we manage that. But some days are trickier than others. We both woke up to a tabula rasa, which is a blank canvas in ancient Greek, I believe, Ryan, this morning. And we thought, what we're going to talk about. And we just said, listen, let's go on. We always think of something. And there you go. Just short of an hour later, we'll be talking about Celtic. And we could probably do it for the next 2 or 3 hours as well.
We're more Van Dijk than Van Gogh, you could say, on the Celtic Way. But we do try and paint as good a picture as we can, you know.
We do. We try. We endeavour to try. Yeah. But there you go. But guys, thank you for joining us on. It's always a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you again for a wonderful Wednesday. Ryan, thank you for your contribution today. Can't do it without you. Stellar as always. Knowledge is the bomb indeed. And always enjoy it. And always enjoy the toing and froing in the comment section with you guys. So join us again tomorrow, 10 o'clock-ish, Ryan, round about then. Something like that.
Yeah. Sean Connery playing tennis.
Yeah, tennis, indeed. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Goodness knows what we'll talk about tomorrow, but we'll worry about that tomorrow. That's another day. Take care.